This is Via Voices, the podcast that brings you insights from the champions of international education. I'm your host, Brooke Roberts, and together we'll uncover the stories behind impactful global learning experiences and the professionals who make them possible. How can global learning be made accessible to every student, regardless of background and type of institution?
You know, this particular COIL or virtual exchange or whatever you call it is just really accepted with open arms. Recently, like our Dean of Business and IT at Kirkwood is like, I want to do this in every classroom. And our Associate VP is also like, how can we make this happen everywhere?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's my goal. Global learning for everyone.
Dawn Wood, Dean of Global Learning at Kirkwood Community College, shares her in-depth research on international ed at the community college level and her decades-long commitment to inclusive global experiences. Hi, Dawn. Welcome to the Via Voices podcast.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here, Bri.
Is this weird? To have this here at AIA?
It's kind of fun, though.
Yeah, it is. We want to do something a little different, and everybody so far has been like, this is cool. So I'm happy about that. No, I know your story, but I don't think enough people do. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your international education journey, how you found your way into this career path.
I grew up on a farm in western Iowa, so lived there until I went to college. And then when I went to college, I found out about this great thing that you could go on exchange programs. So my first experience going on an exchange program was going to New Mexico State University on a national student exchange. Then I was like, why not study abroad? When I got back, I'm like, what am I doing back here? I need to go somewhere else.
It's like a gateway drug almost. Yeah.
It's like, you catch the bug, like everyone says, and you just get addicted to the process. So then I studied abroad in Denmark, then I worked abroad, and eventually found my way back to the U.S. to go to grad school and found out about SIT, where I went to grad school for my master's degree and learned about international education and thought this is the career I really want to be in. I want to help people learn about different cultures. It changed my world, really. And I think it's really important. I think it's, I want to make a difference. So that's kind of how I came to international ed. So then I worked at San Diego State. I worked at a couple of other institutions, private, public, 4-year, and eventually found my way to Kirkwood Community College when I moved back to Iowa after living away for like 15 years. And it's really rewarding to be back, like where I'm from, like back to my roots and working with the people of Iowa in a local community at a community college where I can provide global learning opportunities. And so my title is Dean of Global Learning, which I really like because it's very broad and I get to do a lot of different types of things and impact people in so many different ways using global learning, whether that's traveling or not traveling, in the classroom, on campus, in our local community, because community colleges serve the local communities. So it's just a really rewarding way to integrate my international education experience. And of course, recently I completed my PhD in higher education internationalization to keep that going, to keep the learning going, because I'm just a forever learner. I love learning, meeting new people and going to different places and learning about different cultures. And that was part of the reason I did the PhD. And it was just a really rewarding experience. So it's great to be where I'm at.
Something you said about being proud that it's global learning is the sort of framing your institution has taken. As someone who worked briefly at a community college as well, which is how we met, and being very passionate about serving that particular group of students from also a rural community. I feel like community colleges are much more forward-thinking and open to other formats of global learning than just mobility-based opportunities. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think, this particular COIL or virtual exchange or whatever you call it is just really accepted with open arms. Recently, like our Dean of Business and IT at Kirkwood is like, I want to do this in every classroom. And our Associate VP is also like, how can we make this happen everywhere? And I'm like, yeah, that's my goal. Global learning for everyone, everyone at Kirkwood. So, I think people really see the value in it because you can also see the immediate impact because so many of our students, they work. So they have families, they're like integrated in the community and they can take what they learn directly into what they're doing every day, whatever type of work that they're in.
Right. So, So let's transition back to your dissertation and your research. I feel like the last time we got to speak about it, I feel like you were still kind of in the data collection phase, but I would love to tell us what your topic was, what were you looking at, and some like highlight key points that that came from it that maybe might be surprising or reinforcing?
Yeah, so the title of my dissertation was about exploring interculturality in low-income, first-generation technical and rural students at U.S. community colleges. So I used all data from Kirkwood. So Kirkwood's a really unique institution. It's a large community college. We do a lot of global learning, a lot of study abroad, a lot of virtual exchange. So we had a lot of data to look at, but it's really, the focus was on the data from Kirkwood. So low income, first generation, technical, and rural are 4 types of students that are really common at Kirkwood and at most community colleges. And when I say technical, I'm talking about career and technical education students. So students who are studying welding or automotive technology, 2-year applied science degrees. And so agriculture is a big one for us too. And so at Kirkwood, I looked at that data and I looked at the demographic data about who participates in virtual exchange, who participates in study abroad, and who's more likely. And honestly, I thought I'd find out that those students weren't as likely, but actually at Kirkwood, if you have one of those identity markers or a combination of one of those 4 things, you're more likely to participate in study abroad or virtual exchange. And the impact on you, I also assess the impact is incredible. It's an incredibly large impact, both in the short term and in the long term. So I was able to survey over almost 900 students who had studied abroad in the last 18 years at Kirkwood. And I had a 23% response rate. And that's unheard of when you're sending out surveys, right?
Okay.
23% of people who maybe studied abroad 10 years ago. They returned the surveys. I interviewed a whole bunch of them and assessed the impact. And I think, one of the biggest takeaways is that students, if you give them the opportunity, whether they're low income, first generation, technical or rural students, or any other type of category that you might think is a disadvantage or underrepresented, if the opportunity is there for them and it makes sense for them, they're going to take it.
Yeah.
And it's going to impact them in ways that aren't easy to measure, but are very, very real.
Yeah.
And I compared, if you did a study abroad, if you did a virtual exchange, or if you did no planned experience. So I also interviewed students at Kirkwood who had never done one of these planned experiences. What was common throughout all of our students at Kirkwood was they all are facing struggles, right? Life struggles are tough.
Yeah.
But life struggles don't get in the way of participating in these type of experiences. And that was something that really hit me when I realized that theme was coming through. And just the other theme that came through is how grateful they were that somebody offered them the opportunity because they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
There's this idea that, students who are in career and technical education programs are not interested in studying abroad.
Yeah.
Well, that was clearly not true.
Right.
They definitely are interested, and at Kirkwood, more interested, and they're more likely to participate. So it was really great. And the virtual exchange too, the impacts were just so immediate. One of the students, I remember I was interviewing him. I did a pre-interview and a post. And in the pre-interview, he's from a small town and he studies electrical engineering, a technician. And he was telling me, I don't really know what this is all about. What is a virtual exchange and why are we really doing it?
Yeah.
And then in the post-interview, he was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I spoke to somebody who has English as their second language and they speak French. I have never spoken to anyone who doesn't speak English. And I spoke to this person who speaks French and they were struggling with their English. So the next day I went back to work and I went and talked to my boss and his friends who are all from India, who I was really scared to talk to before, but now I have the confidence to do it.
Oh my gosh.
That's just an immediate,
that's
tangible impact,
That is great.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's such a cool story. I love that. Well, are you planning to do any follow-up research, or do you have a new topic you want to go after now?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I really think it resonates with our current climate. So that's real. These students are part of our community, but it's so hard to assess, in Cedar Rapids, which is where Kirkwood is located. Cedar Rapids, Iowa, second largest city in Iowa, blue collar, heart of the country type of place, right? What's the impact on our community? What's the impact on our industry leaders and our employers? In real tangible ways. I'd love to do some type of joint research with some other community colleges and really try to get a pulse on that. why is Cedar Rapids different? Because Kirkwood offers all of these global opportunities that some other community colleges don't.
Yeah.
Because in reality, there's 1,300 community colleges, and there's not a lot of them that are offering international opportunities like this. And I'd love to be able to show the real impact on the community in terms of opportunities for employment, for industry to be more innovative, those type of things. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do that exactly. Okay. That's been going through my mind even at the end of my dissertation.
Well, I hope if somebody's listening out there and they're like, I love that idea, reach out to Dawn, do some collaborating, help her out with this. That'd be great. As a technology company at VIA, we're always curious how institutions are embracing technology in unique and interesting ways to make your work better, faster, easier, what have you. What have been some technology adoption that you're really proud of at Kirkwood?
We use a lot of technology at Kirkwood, but we've been going through this process of guided pathways, which is a model for community colleges and for promoting student success. And one of the things that came out of it was using technology as part of the whole guided pathways kind of paradigm. And we developed a system whereby we can keep better track of our students in team-based ways so that all of the different departments on campus, career services, advising, accommodations, international office, all have visibility to what type of help that student has had. And we've now used that same technology with the faculty. So faculty at the 20% mark of the semester have to enter a note about students and how they're doing in the class.
Okay.
And if there's any concerns, and then that note gets sent to their academic advisor, and then there can be follow-up. So that type of really intense CRM type of system has been really useful and mapped to our goals with the guided pathways. And it's been really
That's really
good.
cool because I feel like, I've worked at institutions where it's very the technology is so siloed, where one office might be collecting some really important information from a student, their struggles or what they, goals, what have you, but then another office has no visibility on that. Right. So they're kind of starting from scratch with the student. That's really smart. That's really cool. International ed. We're facing some challenges right now. A little confusion. Is there any particular issue or challenge right now you're particularly concerned with, especially from a community college point of view?
I would say, the media and how things are being portrayed. So you just feel like, what's coming next and how are you going to react to it? Because there's something new and the portrayal of that could be anything at this point. So kind of the uncertainty about how things are going to be portrayed instead of having, the real people, like people interacting. Like what our business is all about is about one-on-one interactions and learning from one another. What's happening right now and all the confusion and chaos, that's concerning. And it's, disorienting. So I can't pick, I know you want me to pick one exact thing, but I really can't think of anything specific.
Well, and I think even to that point, to sort of etch out a little bit something specific, I think even with the things happening with USAID, going back to the media, it's like the top headline is a thing that I feel like is hammered all the time. But I feel like I don't see as much of them digging into how USAID is interwoven into so many other areas of the U.S. economy or just our operations. It's not in a silo, For instance, my partner's family, they're farmers in Kansas, and they are very concerned about USAID and all of their feeding the world related programs because that's where a lot of their crops go to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's nothing operates in a bubble. I think to your point, being able to showcase and tell a story of that interwoven nature through the media would make it feel less, maybe not less chaotic, but at least more informed.
I guess if I did have to pick one thing that kind of, the USAID is a good one, but I also teach an online class at Kirkwood called Global Business Skills, which is a required course for 2-year management students at Kirkwood. And, that class is all about navigating the world and understanding that the world is interrelated. So all of this stuff with limiting global trade is really concerning to me because it's causing rifts that are going to be hard to mend, and not having open trade is just really, impossible. Like in our world, we talk about it in global business skills. Like it's inevitable that we're going to need to drink coffee, for example. You know, like I need coffee.
Right.
So we don't grow it here in the United States of America. So we need to have free trade coffee that I can get.
Yeah.
You know,
priorities, people.
Exactly. So that the global trade one really does concern me. Yeah. And that's education too. Like we are in the business of exporting education, right? And so we need to have free trade.
And importing students. I mean, to put it in a kind of crass way, but it's like we are in the import-export business.
Yeah.
Right? And it might be in terms of, human capital, but it's still really important part of like the larger ecosystem.
Right. And I mean, we're really good at it. Like the United States of America has an amazing educational system that we should be exporting.
Yeah.
And making a profit off of, and making our impact and our brand known around the world. So it seems that global trade part, that's concerning to me.
Well, and I also just somebody who's studied a lot of geopolitical history. And isolationism has never really worked out for us. I'm just like, did anybody read a book? Like, please?
I'm hoping this is short-lived.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to maybe a slightly happier topic. Obviously, you've gone on to do, a PhD. You're involved in lots of professional organizations. Outside of, getting a degree, what has been one of the most meaningful professional development experiences you've had that you could, recommend to others?
I've been so fortunate and privileged to have so many opportunities for professional development. It's really all the association memberships, like being part of AIEA, being part of NAFSA, being part of the Forum, being part of CCID. All of those organizations and being with other leaders and the networks and friendships that I've made over time. I think those are the most rewarding. I enjoy presenting at these conferences because I always meet new people. And that's, like I said, that's what I love doing. I love meeting new people. I love mentoring new people. So probably, I think the mentoring part, like as a professional, my professional growth comes from mentoring new people and learning what new people to this field are experiencing and what their challenges are and how I can help them to grow into whatever they want to grow into. I love doing that with my own team. At Kirkwood, I have a team of really amazing professionals, but also at the Forum for Education Abroad, I serve as a mentor. I do it at CCID too. And that, I think, is the most rewarding, for sure.
You are not the first to say that. I feel I'm sensing a theme. Yes, yeah. So I want to do a couple more rapid fire-ish type of questions.
Okay.
Aisle or window?
Aisle. Absolutely
Say
aisle.
More.
Yeah. I have to get up multiple times. I mean, not only to use the facilities, I have to get up and walk around. Like, I cannot sit still. Yeah. Actually, I have a trouble, like, even in these plenary sessions. Like, I try to think of a reason. I can get up and get some water.
Yeah.
I can get up and, like, stand in the back of the room and what. I just like to be active. I have a hard time sitting. Right. Luckily, in my new office, I have one of those stand-up desks, so I can move it up and down. Okay. Yeah, so I have to be on the aisle so that I can get up, walk around frequently. Right. And I also don't sleep on long flights. I'm a horrible plane sleeper.
Yeah. Well, you need to upgrade then to business class so you can just lay down.
That would be great. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. We don't, most of us don't fly a lot of business class, just FYI. And then if you are, call us, tell us your secrets. What's the last book you read and how did it influence how you see the world?
Oh, yeah. The last book I read was this book called Go Ghana Go, because in October, I was privileged to be able to travel to Ghana to set up a new study abroad program as part of the Ideas Grant.
Okay.
And so I was looking for different books about the place I'm traveling to, which I do all the time. And this Go Ghana Go book was just really fantastic. It was really about the whole African continent. It was also about immigration to the U.S. by some people from different African countries, and then about this one individual in Ghana and his whole family that surrounded him. And it was just really moving. Yeah. I love reading reading fiction books about wherever I'm traveling to.
Yeah.
So that's my last book.
We'll add that to the reading list. We're creating a whole reading list from all these questions.
Okay, good.
So I want you to dream a little bit, and we're going to remove all limitations. There's no technological limitation, no geographic limitation, no financial limitation. What's one problem in international education you would fix like that?
Visa requirements.
Yes. I know.
had to think.
Some people have been saying like, oh, everyone should go abroad. I'm like, yeah, but like practically they need a visa. So let's get rid of that. Yeah.
Yeah, visa requirements that are just silly. You know,
yes.
I understand we have to have some for security purposes.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to make everything open. I remember when I first started working at Kirkwood, this one student came in my office and he was thinking about studying abroad. And then I told him how he needed to get a passport. And he was like, why do we need passports? That's stupid. And I'm like, you're right.
You're right. Like,
why isn't the whole world just free and peaceful and we can just go wherever we want?
Yeah.
So I'm not that naive. I think we do need some sort of control, but some of the visa requirements I would love to get rid of. Yeah.
Good one. All right. Last question. So I want to talk a little bit about paying it forward. You know, you've done some really cool things in your career, and there's probably somebody out there listening who sees what you're doing, maybe even at a community college level. And they're like, oh my gosh, I would love to do what Dawn is doing. What's a piece of advice you'd give that person?
Piece of advice would be to build relationships, you know.
Yeah.
And with people you don't, not necessarily, you know, the most influential people or something. Like today at the lunch, I'm like scanning around looking for somebody who looks like they're kind of alone. And I love to meet somebody new at lunch. Yeah. And I'm hoping I get to keep that relationship with the woman I met at lunch today. She was amazing. So just don't give up on the human beings.
Yeah.
You know, human beings should, in this field, they need to connect. That's our main purpose. That's what education is about, really.
Yeah.
But international education even more so. So I think focus everything around building relationships and you're going to be successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Thank you, Dawn, so much for being on the show. Really appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, Brooke. Thanks for having me.